Hello friends, my name's James. And this is my 1965 Alberg 30 sloop SV Tritea. We're on a mission to sail around the world and see as much of this beautiful planet as possible. On this season, we're working our way through New Zealand. I want to share with you all the magic that is Aotearoa. Alright, it's time to leave Tutukaka. It's been a nice couple days here. I enjoyed the hike yesterday. And now we're going to push 20 miles down to Whangarei. We're going to be anchoring not up in the estuary today because of when we arrive there, the tide and current will be against us. So we're going to anchor outside for tonight and then move into the estuary in the morning. So yeah, it's time to get everything going. I just checked the oil on the engine, everything looks good. Check the coolant, everything, all the levels look good on everything. So time to get the engine started, the anchor hauled up, and we'll head out. So I was looking at the charts and the tides and everything, and looks like we're gonna have to anchor at Smuggler's Cove outside of the entrance to Whangarei, because we're supposed to arrive at this speed, which we're doing about 3 knots. We are gonna arrive around 3 p.m. and there's gonna be almost a 3-knot current, like 2.75 knot current coming out at that time. So we would just be sitting still. We would not be able to enter with that kind of current against us. So I would imagine we will anchor at Smuggler's Cove, which that anchorage is very exposed. So I'm not gonna want to spend the night there, but around 5:30 p.m. the tides switch, and there won't be there's a current flowing, you know, it's a flood tide, so we'll be able to ride that in and get anchored up inside the estuary. I don't know, I don't think it's a bay. I don't know what it's referred to as. I'm just calling it an estuary. It's been a very quiet, mellow motor today. We had a little bit of sailing earlier, but that was just kind of a morning land breeze, and it's been glassy ever since, which is fine. Totally chill. It's beautiful out, sunny, clear skies, warm, and just, you know, working our way down the coast. Some of the most beautiful headlands I've ever rounded in my life. So crazy looking. Like rivals Moorea for beauty. It's nuts. Big pot of dolphins. As we approach, we're less than a mile from Smuggler's Bay, where we might have to anchor tonight. But I'm gonna get into the tidal flow and see what the speeds actually are. See if it's possible for us to make way into the current. If it's actually, I want to test to see if what it's showing on Navionics is actually what it is in real life. So I'm just gonna drive up, and if we slow down to a stop, then we turn around and anchor at Smugglers. But if it seems like we can make way, I'd rather anchor up in the next spot, which I think is Uaquats or something. I don't know. It's a very weird word. I'll put it on the screen right now. But a lot of dolphins out jumping around. That's a nice warm welcome. And now we just got to round this headland and see what the current's all about. This is Smugglers, where we might anchor tonight. We're gonna go up this channel and see how bad the current is. So far so good. We're doing like 2 knots. So we only lost a knot so far. So yeah, I think it's doable. Look at that flow, it's crazy. I'm trying to hug like close to the shore because the current is strongest in the middle of the channel. Everywhere, all channels. So I'm trying to skirt the edges and it won't be as strong. Doing good so far. Tidal flow is crazy looking. Oh boy, it got so hairy. I was sitting basically still and going backwards for the last like 10 minutes. We're finally making headway very slowly. The full tidal rip is just happening at this like juncture. But we're making very small headway. We just need to get out of the flow that way. There's the anchorage right there. But there's rocks right here, the problem. But I'm watching I have the distance counter on the Navionics so I can see us making little bits of ground. We're not even going fast enough to register a speed on Navionics. But I can tell that the land's moving in a favorable way. Oh, we did it. God, that was brutal. I mean, I did it to myself, but brutal. Now I gotta find a spot to drop the hook. Oh boy, gnarl. We're anchored in 30 feet of water. That's 9 meters. We have 4 scope out. I know this is all good holding and mud. We're only going to be here tonight. Tomorrow, when the flood tide happens, we're going to head up into Whangarei Bay anchorage across from Marsden Cove. My friends Ian and Laura are keeping their boat over there, and there's facilities and stuff, so I'll be able to hop across in the dinghy before the storm comes. Boy. I'm glad I did that today. I'm glad that I checked it out and fought the current and have that experience now. I would never do that again. Ever. But I'm glad now if I get in a situation to where I know I have to do that, if I just find myself in that situation, I gained some good experience today. It was crazy. We must have been in like an eddy, so that because we were doing like 3.7 knots against what they were saying was like a 3-knot current, until it was like right at this bend, right around the like little promontory that we needed to round to get into the anchorage. And when we hit that, we hit the full force of that current, and we were going backwards for a while, we were going sideways for a while. I put it up to over like 30,000 RPMs on the engine, and we just like squeaked our way feet at a time, meters at a time. I did a screen recording on the tracker, so I know exactly how long the battle took. It took 23 minutes and 3 seconds until we were actually like doing a 1.5 knots forward. Because on the thing, it'll show you your speed, and if it shows you pointing this way or this way, and your boat's pointing this way, it means that you're actually moving whatever direction the GPS is showing you. Pretty wild. I would not do that again. So, seems chill here. It's supposed to be mellow tonight, wind and weather-wise. And then tomorrow we haul up and head deeper into Whangarei. Beautifully still night on the hook last night. I slept very, very deeply. Went to sleep at like 8:30. Slept for 8 hours, which is super rare for me. The tide is favorable. It's time to haul up, and we have like a 3.5 mile drive up the river, and we're gonna get anchored at Whangarei Bay. We have rain coming tomorrow, so a little bit of weather tomorrow, and then a few days of should be mellow, and then a storm on Thursday, Friday, maybe Saturday. It's Sunday morning right now, but stunningly beautiful out. This anchorage is out of this world gorgeous, like so many places in New Zealand. I mean, look at that. That is crazy. So, time for me to get the ship in order and get the engine going, and let's drive up a river. Making our way out of the anchorage. It says we have a 1.5 knot favorable current with us on our passage, so should make quick time. doing like 3 knots at 2,000 RPMs right now. Cruising. Get to this next spot, and then we'll be able to sit still for a couple days. We're in the channel now, and we're doing like 5 knots. So that shows that the tidal and current reading on avionics was spot on. We are cruising. I'm having to hand steer because it's trying to push us into the oncoming lane of traffic on the channel. There's a lot of little fishing boats anchored in the middle of the channel fishing. I've never seen anyone do that anywhere else. But maybe it's because it's Sunday and they know there's not a lot of shipping traffic. But try that in Los Angeles, and Coast Guard would let you know real quick that wasn't happening. Beautiful morning out though. These guys are probably having a good time fishing. Get some dinner picked up, and nice to see Kiwis getting to enjoy this beautiful weather before the next storm sets in. All right, we are approaching the anchorage. We're like just over half a mile from where we're gonna drop the hook, McLeod Bay. Should be nice and protected for the winds that are coming with the storm in a couple days. And we're like 1.7 nautical miles from Marsden's Cove Marina. So you can go to restaurants. I need to get some provisions. And my friends Ian and Laura of SV Rala are there. That's where they keep their boat. They'll be there in a couple days. So it'll be nice to see them. And yeah, stoked to be checking out this new spot. Get settled in for a bit. We're here, McLeod Bay. Very nice. Very nice spot. So now it's time to find a spot to drop the hook and get her set. Nice shallow water depth. It's like, I think we're gonna be anchoring in, I don't know, 4 or 5 meters. So that's good. We're anchored in 5 meters of water, 18 feet. We have 5 scope out, hook set very well, even made the bow dip, which is good. And it's very, very still and very well protected anchorage. And it's time for second breakfast. This anchorage presents a great opportunity for me to talk about reading the land and the landscape of an anchorage to determine where you want to anchor based on what the geographic features of the landscape is going to do to wind and weather. For instance, this saddle right here, which is the low point between two high peaks, that is a place where wind will travel over and actually accelerate as it enters into the anchorage. It's almost like putting your thumb over a garden hose, and depending on how extreme the sort of bottleneck area is, that will determine how much it increases the wind speed from the winds that are blowing on the other side. With this anchorage, there's a couple different features I'd like to talk about and walk through the process I had when I was motoring in and trying to eyeball where I wanted to drop the hook. The storm we have coming in a few days, it's only going to be, I think the most I've seen on the models is maybe 20 knots of wind, so not too crazy, but that can be accelerated to 30, 35 with features such as this and other aspects of the anchorage here. So you see the two different high peaks, and as I mentioned, the saddle, and that would be an acceleration zone. So I know for sure that the wind is going to be coming from that direction for the majority of the storm. So that's something I took into consideration. This mountain itself is a very steep angle, which is great because that minimizes, it's not only is it steep, but it's also forested. So that's going to minimize the sort of katabatic or downslope winds that's going to come off of that peak. In the perfect world, if there hadn't been a mooring field, I would have tucked way close into shore and gotten the most protection out of that sort of vertical mountain face. Another thing to look at is just on the other side of this peak is another low saddle. And that one is only partially forested and partially grassy knolls. Now, the angle of that hill allows for greater acceleration in the wind. So when I was coming in, I was like, okay, there's two different acceleration zones that I can see right away. I'm just gonna try to get in the middle of those two to kind of get the best that was possible. You wanna tuck in closer in because those accelerated winds will increase as you get further out. And so right out here, just past, there's a red mark there, just past this is a shoal that is very, very shallow. It shows as green on the chart, which means that it may be exposed at low water. So if I anchored out there, then I'm worried about having an invisible lee shore. So if I started dragging, I could end up aground because of onto that shoal. So that's another thing you want to think about. Not to mention, as I said, further out, those winds are going to be more intense than if you can get closer to shore. This holding is very good, and I know that. It's all mud. We're in a river basin. Mud is a fantastic holding if you have the right anchor. I have a 45-pound Mantis anchor, which is, in my opinion, the best anchor on the planet. It holds me very, very well. I don't ever have to worry about it. And right now we're in, I think, 5 meters of water, so 18 feet. And we have 5 scope out. So we have like 100 foot out. If we were in shallower water, in some ways that would have been better because you would know that you would be able to let out a lot more scope if you started dragging without creating a giant sort of swing radius or getting too close to other boats. It's not an issue here. There's tons of room, there's no one around, and I could let out 9 scope if, you know, there was some gnarly storm that came up, and it would be no problem with distance. That's another thing you need to think about. Specifically here in New Zealand, the storms tend to be cyclonic, so you're gonna get wind from all directions. So it's gonna be stronger generally in one direction than the other, but you have to think about that because you're gonna be spinning kind of the full scope around on your anchor at some point. So yeah, that's just a breakdown on what you wanting to read the landscape as you're approaching an anchorage and thinking about where you want to put the hook and set yourself up for a storm. I have a snubber that is double-sided, so it's like a bridle snubber that goes to a single plate. And that is made of, I think it's 1/2 inch nylon rode. And what that does is it allows for stretch, which takes out those shock loads. I have two spliced loops on it, one at my regular standing and then one at a storm distant like length, so I can put out enough snubber so that I have 20 feet of snubber out, which I would only do in very deep water, so there's no risk of the snubber coming off. But that allows for a ton of stretch, and that would be like if I was under anchor in a cyclone or something. So that's how I go about reading the landscape when I'm approaching an anchorage and getting ready to set the hook and ride out some weather. If you enjoy the content on this channel and would like to contribute, you can consider joining the Patreon crew. Thanks for watching. Fair winds until next time.